I spent 20 years hunting international terrorists, only to come home and find the biggest criminal sitting at my mother's dinner table. He thought he was untouchable, using her tiny charity to wash dirty cartel cash. But he forgot exactly what I used to do for a living. My name is Diane. For the better part of 2 decades, I didn't exist. I was a ghost on a payroll that officially wasn't there, analyzing signal intelligence and coordinating asset extraction in regions of the world most people only see on the evening news when something explodes. I retired not because I was too old, but because I was tired. I wanted a garden. I wanted to sleep in a bed that didn't vibrate from nearby mortar fire. Most of all, I wanted to reconnect with my family. My father passed away 10 years ago while I was stationed in a redacted location in North Africa. I missed the funeral. It's the biggest regret of my life. My mother, Helen, is a saint of a woman who channeled her grief into the Open Hearth, a local nonprofit dedicated to feeding the homeless and helping at-risk youth in our mid-sized Oregon city. My younger sister, Sarah, was the one who stayed. She married a guy named Greg about 5 years ago. I came home expecting a quiet life. I bought a small fixer-upper 3 miles from Mom's house. I was ready for potlucks, church bingos, and Sunday football. Then came the welcome home dinner. Greg was the kind of man who took up too much space in a room. He was 45, tanned, with teeth that were too white and a handshake that felt like a challenge. He owned a logistics and shipping consultancy firm. At least that's what he told people. "So, Diane," Greg said, pouring himself a glass of wine that I recognized as a vintage costing more than my first car. "Done playing James Bond? Finally ready to settle down and let the men handle the heavy lifting?" He laughed. Sarah laughed with him, though hers was nervous. My mother just smiled benevolently, happy to have everyone at the table. "Something like that," I said, slicing my roast beef. "Just data analysis, mostly. Boring stuff." "Well, you should come by the office sometime," Greg boasted, leaning back and flashing a watch. A Patek Philippe Nautilus, stainless steel, market value around $100,000. "Business is booming. I've actually been helping Helen here modernize the charity. We've taken the Open Hearth into the big leagues." I looked at my mother. She beamed. "Oh, Diane, Greg has been a miracle. We used to struggle just to keep the pantry stocked. Now we have surplus. We're opening a new wing next month. We have donors from all over the world." My stomach tightened. I knew my mother's operation. It was a grassroots, community-funded effort. Donors from all over the world for a local homeless shelter in Oregon? That didn't track. "That's amazing, Mom," I said, keeping my voice even. "What kind of donors?" "Anonymous, mostly," Greg interjected, quickly, too quickly. "Philanthropic trusts, holding companies that need tax write-offs. I handled the structuring for her. Gratis, of course." I looked at the watch again. I looked at Sarah's diamond earrings. I looked at the new Range Rover in the driveway. A shipping consultant in a mid-tier market doesn't make Patek Philippe money unless he's shipping something he shouldn't be. That night, I didn't sleep. The analyst part of my brain, the part I couldn't retire, was screaming. The next morning, I went to Mom's house while Greg was at work and Sarah was at yoga. I told Mom I wanted to see the books, maybe help her organize the files for the new wing. She was delighted. She handed me the login to the cloud accounting software Greg had set up for her. "It's all so high-tech now," she said, making me tea. "Greg handles the bank transfers. I just sign the checks for the contractors." I sat at her dining room table, opened my laptop, and initiated a VPN. Then I started digging. It took me less than an hour to find the pattern. It was classic, almost lazy. The Open Hearth was receiving massive monthly donations, increments of exactly $9,500 to avoid automatic banking red flags, but hundreds of them, from 3 specific LLCs based in Delaware and Nevada: Redstone Imports, Blue Horizon Holdings, and Zenith Logistics. I ran a background trace on the LLCs. On paper, they were legitimate import-export businesses. In reality, they were ghosts. No physical offices, just P.O. boxes. No employees, just bank accounts funneling money. Then I looked at the charity's expenditures. The charity was flush, but the money was going right back out. Massive payments to Apex Construction and Vanguard Consulting for site development and strategic planning. I pulled the incorporation documents for Apex and Vanguard. They were registered to a registered agent, but a deep dive into the metadata of their filing forms revealed a familiar recovery email address, greg.miller.biz@gmail.com. Greg was taking dirty money from shell companies, donating it to mom's charity to clean it, and getting a tax write-off, and then billing the charity for non-existent services to pull the clean money back out into his own pockets. But whose money was it? I spent the next 3 days doing what I used to do for the NSA, but from a coffee shop with spotty Wi-Fi. I traced the money entering the donor LLCs. It was coming from accounts in Mexico and the Cayman Islands, specifically accounts flagged in international databases associated with the Los Dorados cartel. My blood ran cold. This wasn't just tax fraud. This was laundering for one of the most violent organizations in the hemisphere. And he was using my mother, my 70-year-old church-going mother, as the mule. If the FBI found this, they wouldn't just arrest Greg. They'd seize the Open Hearth's assets. They'd charge my mother with negligence or conspiracy. They'd ruin Sarah for benefiting from the proceeds of crime. The media would tear our family apart. Local saint running cartel wash. I couldn't call the police. Not yet. I had to surgically remove the cancer without killing the patient. I needed a plan. I needed to destroy Greg completely, isolate him from the cartel, and insulate my family, all before the authorities caught wind of it. Step 1 was surveillance. Greg thought he was smart, but he was suburban smart. He used the same password for his email, his bank, and his home security system. I cloned his phone while he was at a family BBQ on Sunday. I just set my phone next to his on the counter for 2 minutes while we were plating burgers. That's all the NFC proximity exploit needed. Now I had his texts. They were terrifying. He was communicating with a handler named Mateo. Mateo, the washing machine is slow this month. We need more volume. Greg, the old lady asks questions if I move too much too fast. I'm handling it. Just keep the transfer fees consistent. Mateo, don't make us come up there, Gregory. We have investments to protect. He was in deep. He wasn't just a facilitator. He was borrowing against the cartel's money. I saw transfers from the Apex Construction account, the cartel's cleaned money, going into Greg's personal offshore gambling accounts. He was stealing from the cartel while laundering for them. He was a dead man walking. I just had to decide when he fell. I decided to initiate Phase 1, psychological disruption. I needed him off his game, paranoid. Mistakes happen when people are tired and scared. I accessed his smart home system. At 2 a.m., I triggered the house alarm, just for 3 seconds, then silenced it, enough to wake him up, but show system error on the panel. I did this 3 nights in a row. Then I started messing with his digital life. I set up a script to move his calendar appointments by 1 hour randomly. He missed meetings, he showed up early, he looked incompetent. I intercepted his emails from Mateo. When Mateo asked for an update, I delayed Greg's reply by 6 hours, or corrupted the attachment so it looked like Greg was sending junk files. At the next Sunday dinner, Greg looked terrible. Dark circles under his eyes. He was checking his phone every 30 seconds. "Everything okay, Greg?" I asked, sipping my iced tea. "Fine, just work stress. Systems are glitching." He snapped. "You should be careful," I said softly. "Data security is no joke these days. You never know who's watching." He froze, staring at me. For a second, I saw pure terror in his eyes. Then he laughed it off. "Yeah, sure, Diane. I'll ask the Geek Squad." Phase 2, financial strangulation. I needed to cut off his escape routes. Greg had about $2 million stashed in a crypto wallet and an account in Belize. He was planning to run. I could see it in his search history. Non-extradition countries, liquidating assets quickly. He was skimming off the top of the cartel's wash to build his golden parachute. I couldn't touch the cartel's money directly without alerting them, but I could touch Greg's personal stash. I used his credentials to access the Belize account. I didn't steal the money, that's illegal. I simply donated it. I set up a recurring transfer of his entire liquid savings to various charities that the cartel would absolutely hate: anti-drug coalitions, police benevolent associations, DEA survivor funds. Then I went after his legitimate business. I sent anonymous tips to OSHA regarding his warehouses. I sent detailed reports of code violations to the city regarding his rental properties. Within a week, he was drowning in inspectors, fines, and cease and desist orders. Phase 3, the isolation. I had to get Sarah and Mom out of the blast radius. I found the evidence I needed in his phone's hidden folder. Pictures. Not just of the money, but of a woman, a 22-year-old hostess at a club in the city. Texts promising her he was going to leave his boring wife as soon as his big deal cashed out. This was the hardest part. I printed the photos, I printed the texts, I put them in a manila envelope. I invited Sarah over for coffee, just the two of us. "Sarah, I need to show you something, and I need you to promise me you won't go home tonight." She looked at the photos. She didn't scream, she just went pale, then very quiet. She cried for an hour. I held her. "He's a monster," she whispered. "He's been so mean lately, so secretive." "I know," I said. "Pack a bag. You and Mom are going to stay at my friend's cabin in the Cascades for a few days. Tell Mom it's a surprise getaway. No phones, just peace." "Why no phones?" "Because Greg is going to be very angry when I confront him," I lied. "I don't want him harassing you." I got them out of town. The house was empty. It was just me, Greg, and the impending storm. Phase 4, the nuke. It was time to close the loop. I went into the charity's accounting system. I stopped the transfers. I froze the accounts using the admin privileges Mom had unwittingly given me. Then I engaged in a little creative writing. I forged a digital paper trail. I modified the logs to make it look like Greg hadn't just been skimming, he had been redirecting the entirety of the last 3 shipments to his own private accounts, the ones I had just emptied to the police charities. To the cartel, it wouldn't look like a bust, it would look like Greg had tried to steal $5 million and run. I sent a single encrypted email to the address Mateo used. No text, just a PDF containing the doctored bank statements showing Greg moving their money into his personal control, and a screenshot of his flight searching history. Then I went to Greg's house. I let myself in. He was in his office, frantically typing on his laptop. He looked like he hadn't bathed in 3 days. Suit rumpled, whiskey bottle on the desk. "Diane, what the hell are you doing here?" he barked, slamming the laptop shut. "Where is Sarah?" "Sarah is gone, Greg. She knows about the girl. She knows about the money." He stood up, his face turning purple. "You witch. You have no idea who you're messing with. I have partners, powerful partners." "I know," I said calmly, sitting in the leather chair opposite him. "Mateo, right? Los Dorados?" Greg went white. He fell back into his chair. How do you—" "I told you, Greg. I hunted people for a living. You're not even a challenge. You're a spreadsheet error." I leaned forward. "Here is the situation. I froze the charity accounts. The money is locked. I also drained your Belize account. You have $0. "You killed me," he whispered. "They're going to kill me." "Probably," I agreed. "I just emailed Mateo. I sent him proof that you stole the last shipment. I made it look like you were planning to cut them out and flee to non-extradition territory." Greg began to hyperventilate. "Why? Why would you do that?" "Because you used my mother," I said, my voice dropping to a temperature that froze the air in the room. "You put my family in the crosshairs of a cartel. You made my mother a felon. You laundered blood money through a food pantry." "I can fix it," he stammered, reaching for his phone. "I can call them. I can explain." "Look at your phone, Greg." He looked. No service. "I'm jamming the signal locally," I said, "and I cut your hardline outside. You're offline." "What do you want?" he cried, tears streaming down his face. "I'll do anything." "I want you to confess. Not to me, to the FBI." I pulled a burner phone out of my pocket and slid it across the desk. "That phone has one number programmed into it, Special Agent Miller. He's an old friend of mine. You are going to call him. You are going to tell him you want to turn state's evidence. You're going to tell him you were coerced into laundering money for the cartel and that you used the charity without my mother's knowledge. You will take 100% of the blame. You will say you manipulated the books and forged her signature. If I go to prison, the cartel will get me. If you don't call Agent Miller, I said, checking my watch, Mateo's guys will be here in about 20 minutes. I traced their enforcers. They're in the city. And since I tipped them off that you stole their money, well, prison is protective custody, Greg. This office is a kill box. It wasn't a bluff. Well, mostly not. I had tipped off the cartel, but I had also tipped off the FBI about a cartel hit in progress at this address. It was a race. Greg was the finish line. Greg looked at the burner phone. He looked at the window. He looked at me. He grabbed the phone. His hands were shaking so hard he almost dropped it. He hit dial. Agent Miller, this is Gregory Vance. I want to surrender. I have information on the Los Dorados cartel. Please, hurry. He stayed on the line, weeping. I stood up. You stay here, Greg. When the sirens come, walk out with your hands up. If you try to run, the cartel finds you. If you try to pin this on Mom, I find you. And trust me, I'm worse than the cartel. I walked out the back door, retrieved my jammer, and slipped into the shadows of the tree line just as the first black SUVs, government ones, screeched up the driveway. I watched from a distance as a SWAT team breached the door. I saw Greg dragged out in handcuffs, looking small and pathetic. The aftermath was messy, but manageable. Because Greg turned state evidence immediately to get into witness protection, the narrative was set. He was a predator who preyed on a naive elderly woman's charity. The FBI seized Greg's assets, but because I had carefully segregated the clean charity funds from the dirty construction payments in the digital paper trail I forged, the open hearth was viewed as a victim, not a co-conspirator. I had to call in every favor I had left in D.C. to smooth things over with the DOJ, ensuring Mom wasn't charged with negligence. It cost me my clearance and my ability to ever work in the sector again, but it was worth it. Mom was devastated, of course. She felt betrayed. She cried for weeks about how she didn't see the signs. I helped her restructure the board. I took over as the CFO, unpaid, of course. We scaled back down to a local operation. We serve soup. We help kids. We don't take donations from shell companies in Nevada anymore. Sarah divorced Greg while he was in federal custody. She's in therapy, and she's doing better. She's going back to school to be a nurse. As for Greg, he gave up everyone. The cartel structure in the Pacific Northwest was decimated thanks to his testimony. He got a reduced sentence and a new identity. But here's the thing about reduced sentences. He still had to do 5 years in a minimum security facility before the witness protection program fully relocated him. And here's the thing about me. I have friends in low places too. I couldn't touch him physically and I didn't want him dead, but I wanted him to remember. Every year on the anniversary of the day I confronted him, a donation is made in his name to the Open Hearth. It's always for exactly $9,500. The receipt is mailed to his prison cell and later to his P.O. box in whatever miserable town they hid him in. It's just a piece of paper, but it lets him know that I know where he is, I know who he is, and I'm still watching. He sent a letter to Sarah once, trying to apologize. I intercepted it. I burned it in the backyard fire pit while drinking a glass of the vintage wine he left behind. My mother asked me the other day if I missed my old job, hunting bad guys, she called it. I looked at the clean books of the charity, the quiet peace of my sister reading on the porch, and the garden I finally planted. No, Mom, I said. I think I cleaned up the last one. Don't mess with family. And for the love of God, don't try to launder money through a retired spook's mother's bank account. We notice the rounding errors.